Morning, Dad.
Hey, going for a run?
Yeah, you should join me like you used to.
Not with my old knees and back.
Try Xanthicin. It could really help. Plus, it's super safe, Dad, and it's good for your heart and brain.
Xanthicin fights aging with astaxanthin, nature's most powerful antioxidant. And with 3 times the absorption and superior purity, it's the brand physicians trust. Find it at getxantho.com and these retailers. Keep doing what you love with Xanthicin.
All right, how's it going, everybody? Episode 29 here of Hawaii Football Now, presented by Xanthicin. Jordan Helly, Hunter Hughes, back with you for another episode of HFN. We record this Wednesday morning at about 7 a.m., one day shy of St. Patrick's Day. So happy St. Patrick's Day to all of our regular listeners and any newcomers as well. Shout out to our guy, Devin, who always asks for the timestamp. This has become a regular routine. Especially with the time change, daylight savings, all of that kind of stuff. It's good to let everybody know. We're excited for today's episode, that's for sure. We are scheduled to talk to Hawaii football assistant coach Abe Elimimian later on in part 2. After halftime, we're hoping to get Abe on here. He is a busy guy. He's been out recruiting. He's getting ready for spring ball. He was just up in Vegas helping organize and run the Hawaii football program's Pro Day. For a number of guys looking to continue their football career. So a lot to get to once we get to that conversation with Abe. Shout out to our producer, Jaron, who also has just returned to Vegas, returned from Vegas, his self-proclaimed first adult trip. Jaron is way younger than Hunter and I. And so he is getting to experience Vegas, as an adult for the very first time, or at least of legal gambling age. And, he was up there working hard, so we appreciate him with some of his ESPN Honolulu duties following the Rainbow Wahine and Rainbow Warrior basketball team up on the 9th Island for the Big West Conference tournaments. And shout out to Coach Laura Beeman and the Wahine as they will be taking the floor in the big dance at the NCAA basketball tournament. But Hunter, good to be back with you, man. Happy St. Patty's Day to you. And, we're glad we survived last week without Jaron on the controls. And we are very, very glad he is back with us to make sure we don't screw this thing up.
Yeah, absolutely. As we mentioned last week, I think we need proper supervision with this show, Jordan. And Jaron definitely provides that. And congrats, Jaron, on what was it, a 2-day trip, 3-day trip, something like that. I've always said that Vegas is a 2-day town, at least for me. And you did it correctly, man. So hats off to you, and we're glad you're back. And spring ball, Jordan, is just a week away, man. UH football is back in full swing, at least in the off season, I should say. Ready to get going.
Yeah, it's right there. It's right there. Always Vegas a little bit different when you go up for a working trip as well, like Jaron did. And that's something when you mentioned spring ball, we'll definitely have to get to with Coach Abe a little bit later in the show. And so let's get to our game time here. A little first half action, a little abbreviated as we kind of go a little longer on the back end with Coach Abe coming up in just a little bit. But one thing we wanted to touch on, and this has been a topic we have discussed before at different times. And I think Hunter and I have been very vocal about, hey, you can never celebrate Colt Brennan enough. And we are, scheduled to have the Celebration of Life coming up this Sunday, March 20th. The University of Hawaiʻi putting out a press release, basically inviting everybody on down to Waikiki Beach, just in front of Duke's Restaurant, Sunday morning, starting at about 8 a.m. They're going to have a short ceremony on the beach. I believe June Jones is supposed to speak. Timmy Chang is going to speak. The family is going to speak. And then they will paddle out, traditional style here in the islands. They're going to paddle out. They're going to have a ceremony out in the water. And they've even invited everybody else, whoever wants to come down. If you got a board, you got a kayak, you got a canoe, and you want to paddle out, they're inviting everybody out there. Kimo Kahoano is supposed to speak. Kahu Cordell Kekoa is also supposed to speak and provide a blessing. It's going to be an emotional Sunday, that's for sure. a well-deserved tribute and remembrance, and truly, I think, a celebration of life in every sense of the term. For Colt coming up this Sunday, we got a chance to retire his number last season, even though in front of a limited capacity crowd. And Hunter and I were very on board with, hey, we got to do that again. We got to do something again once you're able to fill Ching and get a full capacity crowd. And he's a guy whose legacy will continue to live on. And I think it's sort of incumbent on everybody who he touched through his life, through his play on the field, and more importantly, off of the field, to kind of keep that legacy going. And obviously a celebration of life, very, very fitting. And I got to imagine, Hunter, there are going to be a lot of people who show up to pay their respects to one of the all-time greats.
Oh, absolutely. Including, I might add, a pretty sizable amount of tourists that might just happen to be walking by as this is happening. Just with it being located right down there at Queens Beach at Waikiki. That's kind of a centering hotspot down there, which I think the more the merrier, with everything that kind of went down this last year with still some of the COVID protocols with limited capacity and things like that. I understand that University of Hawaiʻi kind of had their hands tied with regards to kind of the timing of everything, but they did a great job, I thought, with honoring him throughout that whole home game. But I couldn't agree anymore, man, that there needs to be something else, and this celebration of life seems like the perfect fit to come together, tell stories, reminisce, laugh, cry as well. But we just had a paddle out for a very dear friend of mine a couple months ago, and it was powerful. One of the most powerful things I've been a part of, and I know for a guy like Colt, it's going to be truly special.
Yeah, it's something that I think is very fitting, and his family has been terrific. Like, they really have in sort of, carrying on his memory, but also being very, very forthcoming, very candid, I think, about some of the demons and some of the struggles that he had to battle, really, throughout especially the later part of his life, and trying to be very honest about that, to, I think, help promote awareness for those going through similar struggles, and trying to tell his story in a fair light. And I just, his dad Terry and the family and his sister, they've been just amazing through it all, right? I mean, the tragedy of losing, a son, a brother at such a young age is just unfathomable. But they've been amazing, and I think their embrace of Hawaii as well, much like Colt and Hawaii's embrace for them, has been something to behold. And it's just kind of amazing all that they've been through, and how strong they've been through all of it, really. And as you said, right, it's going to be an awesome opportunity, and it's one of those things that I think will bring people from the community together, to share a laugh and a tear, man. That's all of the emotions are appropriate, and I think warranted for a day like Sunday will be, for sure.
Yeah, and Colt is still the most famous University of Hawaiʻi football player, even still to this day. People in getting to know me, find out I played for University of Hawaiʻi. Their very next question is, "Oh, did you play with Colt Brennan?" And bless their heart, we missed each other by almost a good 10 years. But it's humongous, the impact that he had for University of Hawaiʻi football, both on a local level and a nationwide, and some might even say international as well. I mean, that season put Hawaii football on the map. Definitely for someone like me who grew up in Chicago and didn't hear much about University of Hawaiʻi football until they were playing Georgia in the Sugar Bowl, and this guy from Hawaii had a black visor on his helmet, threw sidearm had so much swag out there. I was like, man, I don't know much about this, but this seems cool. A lot of what we, referred to as the glory days now is because of a guy like Colt. So, those listening, by the time this airs on Thursday. You've got a couple days still to put your affairs in order and try to get down there. It will be on Sunday, and I think as many people can come down there as possible. It's going to be awesome.
Yeah, I'd imagine it's going to be a big crowd, and kudos for everybody involved in getting this thing organized. And it's nice that people can gather now, and we've been able to lift some of the restrictions and all this kind of stuff, and basically as many people that can get down there and share in the celebration, and they'll be able to do that. And just one quick note before we sort of transition to our next topic here. The university did put out a release that mentions as well, for those unable to attend but would like to give back in honor of Colt Brennan, donations may be made toward the Colt Brennan Legacy Fund of the Hawaii Community Foundation. And there is a link on the University of Hawaii website that you can find. It's basically hawaiicommunityfoundation.org/Colt-fund. So if you go to the HCF website, you'll be able to find it, no doubt about that. Money raised will support causes that Colt cared about, including UH athletics and youth sports. It will benefit organizations that advocate and provide resources toward making a difference in the lives of individuals struggling with mental health and addiction issues as well. As also Barefoot League and Hawaii Life, High Life, they've created a Colt Brennan tribute legacy shirt. Proceeds from those sales go to the Colt Brennan Legacy Fund as well, and hope people can make it down on Sunday. That's for sure. And our always to Colt and his family. All right, easy way to transition out of that, but we've got Coach Abe Elimimian coming up in part 2. So we got to introduce Coach Abe, and we'll take a quick halftime break here coming up in just a sec.
This is Hawaii Football Now from ESPN Honolulu.
All right, again, so Abe Elimimian coming up in part 2. The cornerbacks coach, once again, on the defensive side of the football for the University of Hawaii, a guy who is University of Hawaii through and through, played at the University of Hawaii, has professional playing experience, has coached at a number of different stops, starting off with the University of, starting off at the high school level and finally ending up back home at the University of Hawaii. He's been through a number of coaching changes, and a guy who has stuck it out, who has remained, who has persevered, and one of the all-time families as well, right, with his brother Solomon, one of the all-time tackle leaders at the University of Hawaii, and an illustrious playing career up in British Columbia for the BC Lions, in Vancouver of the CFL. So coming up after this, we get Coach Abe on the line, and we are going to have a fun conversation with him fresh off the pro day this past week, as well as spring football coming up. So he's got a few days to recover from the mainland trip and get ready for spring ball. But before we head into that, and before we head into our halftime break, we got to tell you about this amazing supplement called astaxanthin. Doctors and pharmacists recommend it for everything from joint and muscle function to cholesterol health and cognitive function, even anti-aging. But did you know only one brand delivers 3 times more astaxanthin to your body, making it a better buy than the competition? That's right. Introducing Xanthicin, available at getxantho.com, Newtown Square Pharmacy, Down to Earth Kaka'ako, GNC stores, and PharmaCare Hawaii. Learn more at getxantho.com. All right, halftime. Second halftime, Jordan and Hunter back with you. And without further ado, our conversation with University of Hawaii assistant coach Abraham Elimimian. All right, here we are with Coach Abe Elimimian, who is kind enough to join us off of, I don't know how much sleep. The guy's been busy all over the place. He's been recruiting. He's getting ready for spring practice. He was just up in Las Vegas helping organize and run the University of Hawaii's Pro Day, where a number of Rainbow Warriors are looking to continue their football career. We know how important that is for these guys' development as they look to take their talents to the next level. But Coach, thanks so much for joining us, because our understanding is you've gotten on the Zoom, like straight from the airport. You were on a red eye overnight. So we we are very grateful here as we record this at like 7:30 on Wednesday morning. So how much sleep have you gotten? And again, thanks for, postponing a little more to join us here on the call.
I'm just happy to be here. Got my sleep on the plane. So, this is something we do as coaches, and we travel a lot of places and a lot of miles. So it's nothing new to me, but the plane ride was smooth. So thank you, Hawaiian Airlines. The pilot was great. A little love there because you guys are a sponsor, but it was great. So got a chance to sleep on a plane and landed, and I'm like, okay, let's go, ready to roll. So
there we go. Shout out to Hawaiian Airlines. Never hurts. Coach, before we get into some of the recent happenings here with spring practice, on the horizon, pro day and whatnot, we got a chance to talk to Coach Yoro a couple of weeks ago, and it's been tumultuous. It's been kind of chaotic as everything has unfolded over the last several months. But what's it been like for you here as you make this transition from one season to the next, new coaching staff in, Coach Timmy Chang takes over. But what's everything been like for you as this transition has unfolded?
It's been like, this is my 8th year, right? So been through five head coaches, and I will say this with Coach Chang. This is probably the most refreshing, the most down-to-earth, genuine person that, that's been a head coach. And, he means well for the state of Hawaii. His heart pours, right? He has a vision, and he's focused on that. And just from our playing days together, right? I know the type of mettle this guy has. And, when he first had that team meeting down in the auditorium, like, he was so passionate. It was just a breath of fresh air for our players. And you can see since we've started, our guys have just been on an upward trajectory. And, for me as a coach, my job is to do the best job I can. And, each and every day and through my players. And so that's kind of just been the whole approach. Spring ball's about to start, so we're fired up for that. And we're ready to roll,
Yeah, Coach, it's great to see you. Thanks again for being on the show, man. It's tough to compare coaching staffs or coaching regimes, if you will. But you're on a very short list, along with myself, that went from the Norm Chow era into the Nick Rolovich era. I don't know about you, but I'm drawing a lot of similarities from one regime into the next with regards to making it much more Hawaii centered, having a much more family oriented, focused environment. I mean, can you speak to that at all from your experience?
Coming out of LA, Crenshaw High School, I didn't really understand how Hawaii was. I remember the first conversation after 2 or 3 weeks. I said, Dad, I want to come home. He's like, where are you going to come home to? So just then I got in my mind, my heart, okay, that Hawaii is going to be the place for me. And once I was able to reconcile that in my heart, Hawaii has been the best thing that ever happened to me. And so just from that transition, in terms of seeing, just being through this process, like you talked about, there's a strong spirit in University of Hawaii. There's a strong spirit on the island, and you can't see it, but it's there, right? You got to respect the culture. You got to respect the people. And I'm not saying people don't do that, but I'm just saying in general, that's the one thing that I started to understand. There's a strong history, a strong tradition with the University of Hawaii and within the state. And, I got a chance, and part of that, my brother too as well, and to be part of 4 years where we won, right? We went to bowl games, and the stadium was rocking, and the fans were happy, the state was happy. And so every time I come back to the office at UH, I always say to myself, okay, how can we give that same experience to these players, 17 and 22-year-olds, for them to experience how it's like. And like I said before, the last 2 weeks, for me, it's been even better. So
it's awesome. Yeah, man. Jumping on top of that a little bit as well, we'll kind of transition into pro day right now. Saw many great performances from our guys that were performing at pro day. Could you feel some of that same sort of warrior ethos and ohana spirit at the pro day with some of the former alumni that showed up?
Yeah, we had 14 guys representing University of Hawaiʻi for Pro Day. Past years, obviously the last couple of years, we didn't really have a Pro Day just because of COVID and all that stuff that happened. This is like the first time that these guys got to actually experience that, that atmosphere and what it's like. I will say we represented extremely well. Our guys were passionate. Our guys were dynamic. The scouts were impressed, and it was fluid, in a sense. Like these guys, we weren't all in a locker room together, right, to start with. Yeah. And it was just like we were ready to play a game. And Cole McDonald was there. He was part of that 2019 year where we won 10 games along with Cedric Bird, and those guys just meshed well with the new guys, right? That they didn't play with people like Calvin and all those guys. So, and when we took that team picture, I'm like, man, I can see why we won 10 games because it was just family. It's family. You know that because you know how that's like. Like, so it was great to see that. We transitioned from the locker room, right, into the weight room, and those guys were together. I think the very first thing we did was the bench press. And, one guy would go and the other guys would be around him and cheering him on. And we had some really good numbers to bench. Then we went to the vertical jump. So just happy to see that.
Yeah. In terms of a location for Pro Day as well, we're kind of a smorgasbord of whatever, team we can combine with and what facilities we're able to use. Was that a good experience using UNLV?
It was a good experience, I would say. So just because of the exposure.
Sure.
We're always trying to be better, right? We're always trying to find ways for us to be better in terms of how we're doing it. So I think that's one of the things we're going to talk about later with Coach Chang, just in terms of how can we continue to improve as a program. As well as Pro Day as well. But I will say this, there were, I believe, half of the NFL teams were there. That's
awesome.
It was awesome, exactly. So for those guys to see our guys perform, I think that was the biggest thing that I took away. At the end of the day, right? It's for these players. Yeah. And the more scouts that can see these players test and put that together with their game film, it's a win for everybody.
Yeah, what all goes into sort of making this happen? Logistically, it's a whole lot different than just holding, one of these on your own campus and bringing in all the scouts and whatnot. You basically got to take the show on the road. But from your standpoint, from the staff standpoint, and coordinating all of these kinds of things, what goes into holding an event like this, which obviously is so important for these guys and their futures?
And Jordan, that's a great question. And when we kind of got assembled as a staff, when Coach Chang put the staff together, Coach Keiki, who's our running backs coach, he just kind of, was like, Abe, I want to kind of get this thing going. So, he kind of organized it with the scouts and just with the location. And, we were on a group thread with all the players. There were guys that say, hey, Coach, I didn't have a Pro Day. Can I join the Pro Day? So that's kind of how it all went about. And, I just think, just from a team standpoint, he did a tremendous job in terms of just, organizing it and making sure that everything ran smoothly. So that's kind of how it all started, so, and it happened pretty fast, honestly. So, and there was, little road bumps along the way. I think, someone told me, this is one of the best Pro Days, that they've ever seen in 14 years. So, so kudos to Coach.
What's the value of making sure these events happen and getting guys into the next level, basically, right? You mentioned guys like Cole McDonald and Cedric Bird and others that have had, recent opportunities to play at the professional level of this program, right? Yeah. JoJo Ward off of that team who's now playing in the USFL, the reboot of the USFL. So, what is the value for the program and its future, the University of Hawaiʻi program, that is, to continue to develop these pros, these professional players, guys that play in the league or play elsewhere, right? Whether it's the USFL or make one heck of a career like your brother Solomon did up in the CFL. Like what's the value of that going forward in recruiting and everything that comes with it?
So I when you have recruits, right, as coaches, right, there's a plan that goes together. There's a vision, right? You have academics on one end, right, where you get that degree. and that degree pays dividends, right, in terms of jobs, in terms of career, being successful. And then on the other hand, you have the NFL, right, so to speak. Every player that comes into University of Hawaiʻi that I've known, right, or is being recruited elsewhere, right, from a football standpoint, right, their ultimate goal is to play in the professional leagues in the NFL, right? So for us, and I know this because I've been part of that process, you know, Coach Chang's been part of that process. Chris Brown, our linebackers coach, has been part of that process. So, you know, that is huge, right? That is huge. And if they can actually see something that's tangible, guys that have gotten drafted, guys that have gotten signed at the University of Hawaiʻi, it makes recruiting a lot easier, right? And, you know, one of my pitches is this, right? Just, you know, look at the players that have come through University of Hawaiʻi in the past that have gotten drafted. You know, whether it's Ashley Laley, who's I think one of the highest draft pick we've ever had, correct? You know, you have
Jelani.
Jelani, right, who was just here about three weeks ago, right? So,
yeah.
And I think this draft is huge, right? And you know, Calvin Turner performed admirably, very well. So if he can get drafted, right, a kid that comes from Jackson State, right, and comes all the way to Hawaii, across the ocean, so to speak, across the mainland, it's big for recruiting because now you see the face, right? You see the face. Right, you said, hey, this is the guy that did X, Y, and Z, and now he's a draftable player. That helps so much in terms of the Mountain West.
Yeah, you know, and I always felt like that was kind of a lie of the media, if you will, that you have to go Power 5 in order to get to the next level. I mean, I look to my immediate teammates. I mean, first and foremost, Jelani Tavai got drafted in the 2nd round. John Ursua was, I think, late 6th. And then a slew of guys have gotten free agent opportunities, like Trayvon Henderson.
Yeah, Trayvon Henderson.
Marcus Kemp. Keith Kirkwood a few years back.
Bordeaux.
There we go. I mean, guys are having opportunities at the next level. And I try to, you know, have that as a part of my narrative in talking about recruiting, that yeah, if you want to go somewhere else that's a better fit for you academically and your situation, then go for it. But you don't have to go to the next level. You know, you can do that here. I remember Rolo saying that they will find the players. If you can play, you're going to get an opportunity. I mean, are you kind of preaching some of a similar message to the guys whenever you have them in front of you?
Absolutely. You know, with the academics, you know, my goal, like I always tell every player that I recruit, is I want to basically see you graduate, right, and be there at your graduation ceremony. And then 2 is I want you in the NFL, right? And if your dream's not to go in the NFL, then you're not the right type of guy for me, right? It's just because, you know, there's certain things we look for in terms of tangibles, in terms of speed, quickness, but you know, you can't measure heart, right? You can't measure what but you can see it, you can feel that passion, and you know. NFL for me is a big deal because, you know, guys that want to play in the NFL are self-starters. You know, they're self-motivated. And you remember John Ursua, Jelani Tavai, Marcus Kemp, all these guys in terms of a recent class that were just guys that were so ambitious on the field that, you know, you were just like, wow, look at this guy, right? And that's the type of guys we need, right? So we continue to recruit that way, guys that are game changers, guys that are self-motivated, guys that are passionate, guys that, you know, willing to run through a wall, and the sky's the limit for us. So the NFL is huge. And like you said, it's a big myth about going to a Power 5 conference. Huge myth. Because why would you go to a conference where you have to possibly sit out, you know, your first couple of years, right, when you can play if you're good enough to compete for a starting job at the University of Hawaiʻi, right? And here's another thing too, is just the weather, right? You ain't got to play in, you know, inclement weather where it's cold and there's tendencies for injuries, right? Your body stays warm, right? And those type of things, right? So, you know, these are all recruiting pitches that are every day that I tell these recruits every day, you know, 70, 80 degree weather, you know, ocean breeze, right? And you know, we get to play against the very best too, right? We get Vanderbilt, Michigan, right? So there's, I mean, You want to play on the big stage? Hawaii's the place to go.
For those listening at home, I've always said this. I felt that Coach Abe is, if not the one of our strongest recruiters out there. Just from, a pitch like that, he shares the same sentiment as do I. There's no reason we should be losing in recruiting to Fresno State, to San Jose State, got other schools in the Mountain West, and we have Hawaii right in our back door. You can kind of feel his passion, his fire right there. And to kind of validate one of his earlier comments about being there on graduation day for us as players, Coach Abe literally is there every single graduation. I've been there when he's there. He's there in the pictures. He is that type of a coach, and we're so stoked that you're still with us, man. You're, to me, a very strong image of what University of Hawaiʻi football is for me still.
Yeah.
So yeah, appreciate you, man. But we're moving into spring ball right now. I'm glad to have you on the defensive side of the football once again. Oh man, I'll have to ask you about that sometime later about being the running backs coach. But Coach Abe is back on the defensive side of the football. And what's the spirit of the team with us just a week away from spring ball, man?
No, the spirit. We're fired up. We're excited. Just the coaches, Coach Yoro, he's going to bring in a physical, fast type of defense, so to speak. And the guys defensively, we're fired up for that. And at the end of the day, right, it's about guys competing, right? Mm-hmm. Guys competing at the highest level, right? Guys pushing each other. But at the end of the day, right, but we also got to come together, right? So, and that's where the magic sort of happens.
Hey, Coach, with spring ball starting up, what are some of the priorities for you, whether it's with your position group or for the defense as a whole, or even the team as a whole? As you guys only get so many of these, and it's a transitional type year. But what are some of the priorities for you?
Priorities right now is, like I told these guys, in terms of the cornerback position. There's jobs available right now, right? So there's jobs available, so to speak, in terms of competing and starting. We had guys that kind of left, but you know what? It is what it is, right? But at the end of the day, right, these guys know what it's all about, right? So my message to the guys in the cornerback position is, hey, right, I don't know who's going to start versus Vanderbilt, right? We have guys that are going to be coming into the program, recruits, but I can't specifically talk about that right now in terms of names, but everyone's going to get a fair opportunity in my book, right? What you do in spring ball, what you do in the classroom, what you do when we have summer, right? These are all part of your evaluation, right? And our job as a coach is to put the best guys on the field. And that's just been my model, right? So if I can trust you, right, to cover the air like it's not the friendly skies, right? It's you got to be able to cover, right? You got to be able to tackle, right? But if I can trust you within the scheme to do those things, the job's available for those guys to come in and compete and start their job.
Yeah, and Coach, sorry, Hunter, go ahead.
You can go, Jordan. Feel free.
No, I was just kind of curious because Coach Abe kind of touched on something that I was interested in that, there was a lot of roster turnover. I mean, that's not a secret to anybody. And so does a spring practice like this take on added importance because there are so many new faces, guys competing for jobs? In that sense.
Yeah, it does. And, playing cornerback is not easy at all. Right? And this, Mr. Hughes, is the fact that cornerback and quarterback are probably one of the two hardest positions because, if you give up a touchdown, everybody in the stands knows, okay, who gave up that touchdown in the air. If you give up a long run, right, no one really knows whose gap that is, right, so to speak. So there comes a certain mentality to play that position. You have to be calm within, but you have to be ferocious outwardly too, as well, and impose your will on the opponent too, as well. And you step on that, that turf or grass, right? That receiver has to know that you mean business, right? That receiver has to know that you're no nonsense, right? And it's not the loudest guys that that I kind of look for. It's the guys that have that quiet, it's that lion that is just, that is crouching, but hey, one step, he's going to basically rip your head off. So that's kind of what I look for. I look for guys that, the game's not too big for them in the fourth quarter. They can handle their own, but my job too is to develop that. And I've done a good job. I believe in developing corners, but it's not just about how fast you can run. Obviously that's important, but it's also about your mental makeup too as well.
Bringing back DBG, Coach.
Well, that original DBG, man, there was you can't replicate that. So, what I told these guys, it's a fresh start for everybody, right? DBG, as we know, with Trayvon Henderson, with Jalen Rogers, with Naquan Phillips, Morrell Jackson, Gaetano, Donovan, Jamal Mayo, and I can go on and on and on, Damian Packer, but, and Will Ferris, right? And Will Ferris, right? So that kind of group, that era is gone, right? Mm-hmm. So these guys, I said, you guys have to make a new name for yourself, okay? Because DBG was a special because those guys came from the bottom, right? They had to claw their way up. There was some internal turmoil with this, and they rose, right? And they did what they were supposed to do as a group. It wasn't easy. So these guys, these new guys that I'm having to coach in terms of Hugh Nelson, Tiger Peterson, Trayvon Killins, Jalen Purdue, Verdell Edwards, Asher Polanca, these and guys that we're going to be bringing in, right? These guys have to make a name for themselves, and that's kind of where it starts. They have to earn it. Yeah, no,
it's a pretty unique forecast in terms of what to expect as a football player right now, where it's not like years before where coaches have their eye on somebody or they've got a rapport with someone and a starting role. That there's so many positions, mainly in my mind, the quarterback position too, where go out and earn a job right now in the spring. It's a very unique time where it's kind of off to the races and you don't have that same sort of, okay, this guy was the starter last year, it's going to be hard for me. No, like a lot of this is just an open race. If you want to start, go and get it.
Absolutely. And you said it so perfectly, right? The job's right there, right? If you want to start, go and get it, right? At the end of the day, our job is to evaluate these players, right? And put them in the best position to succeed. Now, there's so many jobs open, so to speak, which is good because, the cream always rises to the top.
And we're looking forward to that. And Coach, I can't tell you how excited we are, and just folks we talk to are excited for spring ball coming up next week, and the fact that folks can attend and check it out. I got to imagine for you and the guys, it's probably even more exciting to get back onto the field in kind of that competitive environment coming up. So we appreciate you again coming straight from the airport, jumping on with us, letting us bother you on Wednesday morning, man. And we just appreciate your time and all that you've given here, man. As you pointed out, you're on like your fifth head coach or something like that, and Hawaii guy through and through, Coach Abe Elimimian.
Yeah, well, I just want to say thank you guys, Jordan, Mr. Hughes, and Jaron for allowing me to come on this program, and you guys are doing a fantastic job. And the fans of Hawaii, we have spring ball coming up. Our coaches, we're inviting you guys out there to come enjoy spring ball. We have a great product that's going to be on the field, and also get your tickets too right now if you can as well. So I say this, from a coaching standpoint or from a player standpoint, we're going to give everything we got for University of Hawaii, for the state of Hawaii. So the more we can support this program, Coach Chang's program, I think it just helps with everything. It helps with recruiting. It helps with fundraising. So the more we're all in as a state, the better chance these guys will perform on the field for you guys.
Right on, Coach. Thank you so much, and looking forward to seeing you guys out there next week.
Thank you. Appreciate you guys.
Much love, Coach.
Thanks, Coach.
All right.
All right, thanks to Coach Abe for joining us here on Hawaii Football Now, our second ever guest. It's been a lot of fun talking to some of these assistant coaches for the new regime, if you will, under head coach Timmy Chang. Jordan Hunter with you. And Hunter, just some quick reactions to Coach Abe. The guy is so passionate. He is, as you pointed out, one of Hawaii's best recruiters and has proven quite invaluable over his tenure through multiple coaching staffs, through multiple head coaches, and a guy that is just so deeply rooted in Hawaii. even though, right, he's not from here. He grew up on the mainland, but he has made Hawaii home, and this is very, very much, a program that he is fully invested in.
Yeah, Coach Abe is just one of those special guys out there. I would say one of the few coaches whenever I played there that really treated everyone with equality, whether it was a starting cornerback, someone that really had a chance at the next level, and then go all the way down the spectrum to someone like me who was a walk-on quarterback, helping the DBs get their hands right. I mean, I spent a lot of time with Coach Abe as a player because I was down there throwing balls to the DBs who don't have the best hands, by the way, just as a playing position. But that's just a little bit of shade from a quarterback to DBs. Not a big DB fan, but a really big fan of the DB coach. And
there you
speaking
go.
Of which, thankful that he's back on the defensive side of the football. I'm sure you guys heard that little snicker from him. I'm sure he was just as confused as we were whenever he was put on the running backs coach this last season. So he's back where he needs to be, and always a pleasure getting to talk to him.
Yeah, a lot of fun, no doubt about it. We'll hope to catch up with him again soon. Obviously, spring practice coming up next week. That's going to be big for this program building into the summer and then obviously into the 2022 season. All right, just a couple of quick notes that we wanted to get in before we wrap up this episode 29. Christian Shimabuku of KHON reporting that Weber State wide receiver coach / recruiting coordinator Jared Orsua is in the process of being hired as the new receivers coach for the University of Hawaii. This, according to Christian's multiple sources. I don't believe that has been made official just yet. I haven't seen anything from the University of Hawaii. Jared is a Kealakahe alum. He's also the older brother, obviously a familiar last name, a former University of Hawaii star receiver, John Ursua. And those two, obviously, a lot of ties to the Utah area as well, which could be huge for recruiting for the University of Hawaii. But basically, that would sort of round out all of the position coach on field coaching hires. And that had been sort of the big last one for the University of Hawaii. And a guy, obviously, with ties to the islands as well, would be, I think, a nice get.
Oh, absolutely. Anytime that you can flash the last name of a Hawaii great, it's going to be great with recruiting, especially someone at that specific position. John was a receiver for us in the very immediate past, and it helps that he is currently still with the Seattle Seahawks. So even if Jared isn't necessarily there with him, the fact that his brother is there, there's just sort of a weight that comes with having a coach that, that there's a brother at the next level. What to expect. You can push your guys in a similar way, and players seem to pay attention a little bit closer whenever there's someone that actually has some authority behind what he says. So I'm kind of looking towards something like that with the hiring of Coach Ursua.
Yeah, that'll be big. Again, I don't believe that has been made official, but some reports from different sources. And I first saw it with Christian Shimabuku of KHON. One other note, and this is pretty interesting. I saw RJ Hollis tweet it on Twitter. That was the first place I saw it, but and this may be way more of a long shot. But Francis Mauingoa, a 6'6", 315-pound class of 2023. So that's basically a kid who's a junior now, one more season of high school. Five-star. They don't give a whole lot of those out. Offensive tackle from IMG by way of American Samoa. Had played elsewhere as a freshman as well as a high schooler. Francis Mauingoa has included the University of Hawaii in his top 13. I don't know why 13. That's sort of how these things work. Guys narrow it down to like their top 20, then their top 10, 8, 5, 4, whatever. But this is part of the recruiting process. And he posted it on Twitter just a couple of days ago. And his top 13, and this isn't like, it's a big deal. Again, it's a 5-star kid. Georgia, Florida, Oklahoma, Texas, Miami, Alabama, Oregon, LSU, Penn State, Ohio State, USC, Michigan, and Hawaii. One of those things is not like the others, but look,
What are you talking about?
It's a football family, right? His brother Frederick was a 3-year starter at center for Washington State. His older brother Francisco is currently a linebacker with Wazoo. Look, I got to imagine it's a long shot. Hawaii, though, has made it a priority, right? Obviously, local kids, Polynesian kids, kids from Samoa. Coach Abe talked about Coach Keiki, the running backs coach. He has been a big point recruiter on that. Look, if they were to somehow land a 5-star offensive tackle, the recruiting websites and recruiting message boards would break. But it's pretty darn cool. And, you know, it's got to say a little something about this coaching staff and the destination itself that they're even in there.
Totally. I know we're running short on time, but at the same time, to get someone of that stature, even considering University of Hawaii, it gets you start to think about what else does University of Hawaii offer besides, you know, a group of 5 school in the Mountain West that's on the lower tier. It means something to Polynesian kids, to kids with ties here, to play in front of family, play in front of friends. We have the chance from a recruiting standpoint to compete with the big boys, specifically in a case study just like this.
Yeah, it'd be, boy, that would be massive. Yeah. We can dream. Again, probably a long shot, but you never know. I'm sure Coach Abe is on it, man. He and Coach Keiki are going to do that for sure. That'll do it for us. Big thanks to Coach Abe Elimimian for jumping on the podcast with us. Big kudos to him. Thanks, Jaron, for securing that. We will head out with a little short overtime. Just wanted to give best of luck to Laura Beeman and the Rainbow Wahine. They will take the court Friday. ESPN Honolulu will obviously have coverage of that, leading up to everything in the first round of the NCAA tournament in Waco against 2-seeded Baylor. So good luck to the Rainbow Wahine, and we will see you next week, episode 30 next week. First week of spring ball as well. It's going to be a big week for the University of Hawaii football program, and we'll be along for the ride. Again, this has been Hawaii Football Now, presented by Xanthison. Big shout out to Spectrum Mobile and Hawaii USA FCU as well. Jordan Hunter saying aloha. We'll see you next week, everybody.
You've been listening to Hawaii Football Now with Jordan Helly and Hunter Hughes, all from ESPN Honolulu.